Hi, this is Jake Adams, CEO at Simplify EDU.
And I'm Danielle Griggs, a tutor coordinator at Simplify EDU, and you're listening to Educators at Heart.
This podcast is for parents and students interested in peering behind the curtain to get to know the authentic journey we're all on as students of life.
Every week, we'll interview a different educator we know so that they can share the unique experiences that have shaped their perspective on the most important things students should know on their journey to higher education. Let's get started. Hey everyone, today we've got an exciting episode for you all. I am joined with another one of our tutors at Simplify EDU, Austin Rubinger. Austin is a fourth-year theoretical computer science student at the Georgia Institute of Technology. Not only is Austin passionate about academics, tutoring, and working with students, Austin also has a huge passion for travel. So we're going to discuss the idea of having a global mindset and seeing the world as your classroom. He is truly an impressive person with vast experiences traveling, teaching, and living in multiple countries, even attaining his yoga teacher certification in India. There is so much to take away in this episode, so let's jump on in. Well, everyone, thanks so much for listening today. I'm really excited because I am joined today with Austin Rubinger. He is one of our tutors and just has a really awesome kind of background and some really interesting experiences that I'm excited to talk through today. So Austin, thanks for joining.
Thank you for having me. I'm super excited to talk
Of
about
course.
this. It's an honor to be here. This is my first time being on a podcast. So it feels very special.
Awesome. Well, we're so excited to have you and that, we get to be your first podcast. So to kind of kick things off and just to let our audience get to know you a little bit, where are you from originally?
So I'm from Atlanta. I've lived here my entire life. I'm from, I don't know if anyone knows Atlanta, but kind of around like the Midtown area. I love it here. It's been a lot of fun growing up here.
Yeah, I love Atlanta too. I've been there many times and it's always something going on. I love it.
It's grown a lot, like from when my parents also grew up here. So according to them, there's more stuff to do.
Awesome. So a question I always like to ask, our tutors and other educators is kind of thinking back on maybe someone who inspired you to pursue this idea of teaching and tutoring. And so did you have a favorite teacher growing up? Maybe it could be, when you were a lot younger, it could be someone, even a professor, but who's someone that really stood out to you as a favorite teacher of yours?
I'd say I up until my sophomore year of high school, I kind of had a hard time being engaged in my classes. And it wasn't until I had my 10th grade. So he taught me pre-calculus and calculus. His name was Mr. Ehrman. I loved it. I fell in love with the class, and that really just changed my entire perspective of education. And I had another class with him the next year and the year after that. So because he taught all the advanced math at my school. So I had the pleasure of learning from him for 3 years, and now we're still in touch. Like every couple of months we meet up for dinner or something. So he's been a mentor and a great teacher in my life.
Oh, that's so cool. I love to hear that too for students who have kept in touch with some of those educators. And it's so neat to kind of see, those connections last and seeing their role in your life almost shift as you become older and they can kind of stay that mentorship role. That's really neat. So kind of shifting forward then for you, like tell us a little bit about your educational background and how you chose your focus of study in college.
Okay. So I grew up in the Atlanta public school system. I did the International Baccalaureate program, which was you're kind of prepared for that since when you're in elementary school. So they're always kind of doing activities and projects to get you in that global mindset, which is a big goal of the International Baccalaureate, to tie the classes that you're taking to the rest of the world. And so I've always loved math as well. I like that it's every question has a yes or no answer. You can get to a definite place. And so I knew I wanted to study something with math in college. And then when I was looking at the career opportunities with a math degree, there's a lot of them, but nothing looked like something that I'd be interested in. So then I thought, okay, so what is something that has a similar style of thinking as math? And I knew that computer science and software engineering were becoming pretty popular. And so I decided to study computer science. And that's how I am here today as a fourth year computer science major. But it definitely I know some people maybe have a calling that like they always knew that they wanted to study this. It kind of just things fell into place. And then that's what I ended up studying.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome. And I always tell people too, it's much more rare to know what you always wanted to do and actually do it and stay doing it. Like, I feel like we kind of think that that's how most people function, but I've found that that's definitely more of the exception. More people it does. It's like it kind of transforms and turns and doesn't maybe look the way that you always thought it would, but ends up, sometimes being even better and just maybe fitting, more than you thought it would. And so it always is neat to kind of see how that evolves for people.
For sure. And I also think that it's more of like a journey of finding what you don't like and what you don't want to do. And I tell people that my sister is 4 years younger than me. So she was going through the college application process as I am finishing it up. So I tell her and her friends and also students that I tutor that I don't think try not to put so much pressure on yourself. When choosing this thing, that I have, there's always a way to change and pivot, and there's always room to follow a different avenue. So you can start somewhere and end up in a completely different destination.
I totally agree. Well, today I'm excited about our topic here. We're discussing the idea of global learning and looking at the world as your classroom. So I know you've mentioned this is a really big passion of yours. So can you tell our listeners what initially sparked this interest for you?
So in 7th grade, at my school you had, and I think most schools have this requirement, you had to choose a language. And I had been taking French since elementary school. My dad was born in Montreal, so he grew up speaking a little bit of French, and I wanted to continue with that. And so in 7th grade, our teacher had arranged for French exchange students to come to Atlanta, and they needed 10 or so students to volunteer as host students. And so his name was Oscar, the guy that we hosted, just for 2 weeks. And then 2 summers later, I went and stayed with him in Toulouse, France. And the whole experience was so magical. Just to being that young and realizing that there's an entire world out there and so many places and people to meet and languages to speak. And so that was really what sparked it. And then it just kind of snowballed. Once I went to Georgia Tech, and it attracts a pretty big international community. I think 11% of the student body is international students. Wow. And a lot of my friends are. My closest friend at Georgia Tech is from Lebanon. So, and then through her, I've met a bunch of other international students, and it's just been so cool to hear different people's stories, where they came from. And it's inspired me to go out and see the world for myself. So that's kind of been the journey with becoming globally minded, if you will.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. That's so neat. So you've said that you've done a lot of travel. So I'd love to hear, can you tell us a little bit about that? Where you've been, maybe what took you there? Tell us about that.
Okay. So throughout college, after my freshman year of college, I did an internship in Tel Aviv. So I was interning at a small startup company. Wow. I was doing some back-end computer science stuff. And so I'm Jewish, so I'd always wanted to go see Israel anyway. Yeah. And then on top of that, it was a really cool opportunity to explore some other places in the Middle East. So I was already friends with my best friend at college. Her name's Cynthia at that point. So I stayed with her family in Lebanon. I went to Jordan. I basically, I took every chance I got. I wasn't sure the next time in my life that I was going to be in the Middle East. So that was, and my roommate that year, so my freshman year roommate was also from Israel. So I already had kind of a network of people in that region of the world. So that was my first experience. And that was, I was very grateful for finding that opportunity, because that was all arranged for Georgia Tech. They have an excellent program for finding students global internships. So that was my first kind of big traveling experience. And then my sophomore year of college, I did an exchange semester in Sweden. Wow. So I spent 6 months there, and that was amazing. I think for a lot of Americans, I don't know if it's the same for you, but I definitely romanticize like European life with the
Right.
trains, the old architecture, the food. So that was really really cool. And it was cool to for me like Scandinavia is the kind of like the gold standard of countries, like how efficient they are and how everyone is happy. And I
Right.
I really so I was it was a great experience to travel there. I met some really cool students there, and since also like at Georgia Tech, I'm really surrounded by scientifically minded people. So a lot of
Yeah.
engineers and computer scientists. But in Sweden, it was more of a mix of like liberal arts students, which was it was really cool to have that shift and to be collaborating with students like that because I got to it kind of made me want to integrate some of that back into my studies, not just be doing science and math. And it made me realize that I missed some stuff that I didn't maybe think I would miss when I
Yeah.
started studying computer science. And then the last experience that I've had was last semester. So I had quite a bit of credits when I started college because I went to college in the same state that I'm from. So a lot of the classes, the AP classes, and I took some
Yeah.
college credits in high school, they transferred. So I was on track to graduate early, but I wanted to graduate with my friends in May of this year. So I took the fall semester off. And so I did some volunteering as an English teacher abroad. So I
Wow.
volunteered as an English teacher in Morocco for a month,
Okay.
and then a month in Kyrgyzstan. And then I spent a month doing yoga teacher training in India. So,
Oh
and
my goodness.
this was really very cool. Like this, but it was very hard, like physically demanding. I didn't expect it to be this much
Yeah.
of a challenge to backpack for 3 months, and I was really wrong. I'm still recovering from it a little bit. I still
Yeah.
feel the backpack on my shoulders.
Oh my goodness.
But that was really I'd say that was the most insightful of the three experiences because I was kind of maybe living in a bit of a bubble before I was brought there either with an internship or affiliated with a university. This was living with a family that maybe doesn't have the same resources. That's not part of that community or not part of that bubble that has access to internships and as many education resources. So it was more, it felt very authentic is
Yeah.
the best way to say it. And I'm still in touch with the family that I stayed with. And then I'm super happy that I have my yoga certification now because I've been teaching ever since. So
Yeah.
it's been a lot. So those are
Wow.
the three big experiences that I've had since I started college.
Yeah, that's incredible. Oh my goodness, what a vast experiences that you've had. That's truly incredible. And I actually also I did a study abroad in college, and I actually went to Israel as well and stayed there for a
Oh,
semester and did Tel Aviv and did Jerusalem, and it was incredible. And it was one of my more so kind of the biggest international trip I had done. Everything else was like
mhm,
Mexico or Canada or the Caribbean, which is, you know, there are differences, but like that was the one where it was like, this is so different.
mhm,
And I think that I always encourage anyone, like if you get the chance, like go be somewhere longer than just a week long trip, like go be somewhere for an extended period of time, whether if it can be study abroad or if it, you know, it needs to be something else.
mhm.
So to kind of then take that a little further, what do you feel are some of the most important lessons that can be learned from travel and experiencing other places and cultures?
You get to see how different things are, but also the same. Like
Mm,
there's all these differences that you don't think of, and like what people eat is an obvious thing, but
yeah.
like the way that people think, the way that people go about their day to day lives,
Hmm.
just little tiny bits of information that just you wouldn't learn otherwise,
Yeah.
because they come about in weird situations. Backpacking off of what you said,
Hmm.
um, I totally agree. Like traveling to the point where you feel like you're living there a little bit, like where
Hmm.
you know your day to day routes. You walk places and they're familiar. That's really cool. That's like
Hmm.
to establish maybe a little bit of some roots where you are
Right.
is that's what makes it very special. But simultaneously, like the everyone is really the same everywhere. I remember when I was staying
Hmm.
with the Kyrgyz family, there was one of the daughters. She was 12 years old, and I was asking her about her favorite music, and she was playing me like Lady Gaga and like all these artists that like people listen to here. And I was,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just like, we're really so the same. And that's kind of a silly example, but like there's just
Yeah.
especially with social media, like everything is really connected now. And so you can connect with anybody anywhere.
I totally agree. There's like a quote, I don't remember who it's by, but it's this idea of there's a lot more that unites us than divides us. Like, and I think that is like there's so much more. We have so much more in common as just human beings than I think we tend to acknowledge or realize. And I think that travel does let you see that. It just kind of breaks those lines open where you kind of feel like everything's, divided off and, oh, I'm so different from these people. And yeah, maybe you do eat different things. You look different. You experience maybe life in different tactile ways, but there are some huge similarities. We have way more in common than I think we tend to maybe think at, just kind of first glance. So, yeah, that's excellent.
We definitely focus on the superficial things when assessing how similar we are with people, but it's if you really break through those things, we're all the same. I know a quote too that my friend told me, and it's we're all the same. What a shame. So
yeah. I like that. So what would you, just kind of focusing on like students, so whether it's, more high school or college, like that kind of age group, what unique benefits do you think students gain from traveling that they maybe might not experience as fully if, say, they wait until a lot later in life to start traveling?
So I think when you, as a student, as a high school student and maybe a college student, even you've had one type of education and that's great. And, we're lucky to be from a country that has really great education, but I think it's only maybe one perspective sometimes. And I think even if you have teachers that help you consider things from different critical lenses, it's still all the perspective from a classroom. It's not experiencing anything firsthand. You can study Europe in the 20th century through World War I and World War II a million times, but you don't really know what a place is until you go there yourself. And the cool thing is that every single person that goes there will know it differently because they'll experience different things. They'll talk to different people. I think it challenges what you think you know. Maybe it strengthens ideas that you already have as well, but it gives you the chance to grow and change. And the reason why I advocate for doing it while you're young is because you're at your most capable physically. My parents travel, but they have to be more cautious of comfortable beds in the hotels. And so while you're young, you can kind of rough it out. You can stay in a hostel. You can stay with a host family. It's a lot easier to do it on a budget also when you're young. So I'd say that's why I'd really advocate for traveling and having these experiences while you're young.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think also it really helps shape your worldview and your perspective. And I think that, not to say that as you get older, those things can't shift, because of course they can. But I would say that I've even seen in myself, we get more stuck in our ways the older that you get. And it can be a little bit harder to branch out. It's still absolutely possible, but I think it is like, there's a little bit more openness maybe when you're younger, and I think that it's just such a great time to utilize that and kind of take advantage of that phase in your life that does kind of shift.
For sure. And I think it's when you're young, you're a little less rigid. Even from starting college to ending college, I feel there's like things in ways that I could have behaved at the beginning that I feel very routine oriented now. And it's very hard for me to be a little bit more go with the flow. And so, while you're young, it's so much easier to be spontaneous and not and live without as much of a regimented schedule. So I agree with that.
Parents, we know how much you care for your children and their future. That's why we've spent more than a decade perfecting our one-on-one online tutoring services and working to develop amazing tutoring relationships that support students in reaching their full potential. Our mission is to make your life easier by matching your students with expert tutors who will meet them where they are, help them learn to invest in themselves and their education, and guide them toward the perspective that every problem has a solution. What makes us different? Our tutors and our tech. We only hire the best, hand-picked tutors who are experts in their fields and passionate about mentoring students. We bring learning to life with iPads, Apple Pencils, and an interactive whiteboard that makes online tutoring more hands-on and effective than ever before. At Simplify EDU, your student gets more than just a tutor. They get a mentor who understands how they learn best. So whether your child is struggling with the fundamentals of algebra, writing their first essay, prepping for AP exams, or shooting for top scores on the SAT, we're here to help every step of the way. Visit simplifyedu.com today to request a free consultation and mention Educators at Heart to receive 10% off your first month of tutoring. Let's build a brighter future together. So how do you think pursuing this mindset of the world as your classroom can help students in kind of their own day-to-day education journey?
I think the biggest thing is it makes you more open-minded, and ultimately all these education tools that you're learning is going to one day help you in the sense that you're going to be working somewhere, and chances are that you're not going to be working with yourself, and you're going to be working with people that come from different places than you, different backgrounds. You never know who you're going to be with. And when you treat the world like your classroom, you look at everyone as an individual, and you look at what they bring to the table that could be different than you. And it teaches you to appreciate those things rather than fear them. And through that, it will just make you a better person to be around, easier to meet new people. So yeah, I'd say just makes it easier to collaborate with people and more open-minded.
I love that. I think arguably one of the most important life skills, because it doesn't go away. It's at every phase of your life is learning how to interact with people who are going to have different ideas and come at things in a different way than you. And so it's really it's relationship, understanding how to function and in that capacity. So I love that. That's really good. So I want to come back to something you talked about earlier. You mentioned that you're also a certified yoga instructor. So I know you mentioned, going to India, but how did that come about for you? Like, was that something you always enjoyed, or did that kind of come out of nowhere? Like, tell us about that process.
So I played tennis in high school. Actually, up until like halfway through high school, I was on the tennis team, and I was just having a really hard time with the competition aspect of it. It was very stressful for me. So I stopped playing. I guess I quit. And I wanted something to stay in shape. And my mom was doing yoga classes at a local studio. And so I went with her. And at first I didn't like it, but I kind of tend to be like, if I'm not good at something, I want to work hard to be better at it. Like I didn't want to say that the class is won. Like I wanted to win.
Right. Yeah.
And so I kept going, and slowly I really started to like it and like really crave it. And I was doing it every day. At some point I was going to yoga classes, and then the studio that I went to talked about yoga teacher training. And that was kind of something that I never thought I would do. But then last year, I was having some doubts with what I was studying, and the same reason that I had picked computer science, like how technical and logic heavy it is, was now frustrating me. And I wanted something different and completely different. And so And then I did an internship last summer, and I wasn't the happiest with how that went. And when I say I wasn't happy with it, I was having doubts about doing computer science for that many hours of the day and stuff like that. Right. So I wanted to kind of break away from that for a minute. And I had already planned on taking the semester off, but I still wanted to make it a productive time in my life. So it's like, why not get yoga teacher certified? This can be something to really complement the other things that I do in my life. It's social. You get to help people. You learn more about this practice that you have and where it comes from. So that was kind of the steps that led up to me becoming yoga certified.
Yeah. And then you did this, so you did the certification in India. Is that what you said?
Mhm. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I did the certification in India. It was 25 days long. My
Wow.
certification was in Hatha Yoga, which it translates to
Okay.
sun and moon in Sanskrit. And what that means
Mm-hmm.
is it's a balance between like an active practice and a passive practice.
Mm.
Um, and the teacher training entailed like you would wake up at 5, you would do chanting, you would then do a yoga class, then you would take classes on alignment, yoga
Mm-hmm.
philosophy, meditation. So you kind of learned every aspect of it, and I hadn't realized how multifaceted yoga was. Like for me, it was,
Yeah.
and I knew there were other aspects of it, and but for me, it was really kind of just the physical practice. But I hadn't,
Mm-hmm.
I didn't know how much went into it, and I
Mm-hmm.
think before I called myself a yogi, but now after going to India, I'm not, and I don't take it this seriously, but I'm not sure if by the standards of India I could call myself a yogi, because it's an entire lifestyle. Like with the type of
Wow.
food that you eat, there's a diet called the
Mm-hmm.
sattvic diet where you don't you don't put any seasoning in your food. So basically, you don't add anything to your food that would stimulate you.
Oh,
And what it really
interesting.
boils down to in the practice of yoga, as it was traditionally intended, is to prepare your body for meditation. So
Hmm.
that's where the breath work comes in, the chanting, the poses is to make your body more
Mm-hmm.
flexible. Because if you're not flexible and limber, then it's going to be very hard to sit crisscross applesauce and
Mm-hmm.
meditate for an hour. Yeah, that was the intention behind it, and it was great to see it from that perspective.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't say that I now view yoga from entirely that perspective, but I definitely have taken elements from what
Yeah.
I learned in India and included it in my own practice.
How cool. Wow. That's
Mhm.
incredible. So I would love to ask this next question. Certainly yoga is something that I've always really enjoyed. I've done it maybe,
Mhm.
say semi-regularly for,
Mhm.
past 5 years or so. And
Mhm.
I agree. There's so much more than just like a workout. You can just feel, so many benefits from it. So I
Mhm.
guess I'm curious what you would say from your own practice and what you learned and what you've kind of brought over. What is something maybe unconventional or kind of surprising that people can learn from practicing yoga? Maybe that if they just think like, oh, it's just a class I can take at the gym. What's something that could be a benefit that maybe they wouldn't necessarily think of?
I think two things. One is to never take anything so seriously. There's kind of a principle in yoga philosophy and Hinduism, and it's to not take anything seriously, but do everything with sincerity.
Mm,
So, and I think I tend to sometimes get very one track minded and tunnel vision with the things that I'm doing, and I may be a little obsessed with like
hmm.
with yoga, for example, just like want to get better, better, better. Um, and I think what I learned from India and also just from practicing for a while is everything in life you're gonna fail, things are gonna mess up, like you're gonna
Yeah.
start over a million times at things that you thought you had mastered, and just don't take it seriously. Like
Hmm.
don't attach so much of your self-worth and value to the things that you do, because you
Yeah.
will always be disappointed in the end. But do everything with sincerity. So it
Hmm.
doesn't mean that you should give up on anything, but just
Yeah.
live with a light heart.
Mm.
um, and then the other thing is more practical, but yoga will show you any imbalance that's in your body. Like so
Mm.
you will see any tiny muscle that you didn't know that was weak, you will now
Yeah.
know after you do a yoga
Hmm.
class. So those are the two great things that I've taken
Yeah.
from it.
That's excellent. I love it. So, last question here before we do a wrap up is what's
Mhm.
something that parents could do to help encourage their students to see the world as their classroom?
For sure. Well, so for starters, like I would encourage parents and students to look for opportunities through their school.
Mm,
Chances are there's something. I know at my school was a public school, and they
hmm.
had tons of different ways to travel or to host exchange students. Because
Mm,
I know a lot of it can sometimes be a financial thing. So
hmm.
to look for maybe if traveling somewhere is an option, hosting someone, because then you kind of
Yeah.
bring the traveling experience to you. And my personal favorite thing about traveling is the people that you meet. So if I can meet someone from a different place in Atlanta, that's still amazing to me. And I know some things that I've used before. I've used an app called Couchsurfer, which you could use to, depending on your comfort level, you can host travelers at your place, or you can meet them. You can meet them at a restaurant, or just to meet different people traveling around. And then also through my language classes at Georgia Tech, I've used websites where you can have language tutoring sessions. Some of them cost money, some of them are free, but I've done private French lessons, and you get matched with someone who's a French speaker, so from a Francophone country. Same with Spanish lessons. And then I also have an app on my phone, which I highly recommend, called Hello Talk. It's completely free. The language that you are learning, you put the language that you speak, or the languages that you speak, and then you put the languages that you want to learn, and it matches you with people like that. And then you kind of just chat with people on the internet. I think these things take a little bit of an open mind, because I know there's some reservations with having strangers or talking to strangers, and I definitely don't want to encourage unsafety. But I think these apps are great, and to me they feel very safe, and there's privacy and protection in place. So I would say take advantage of technology. Technology gives us the chance to kind of travel anywhere, in a sense. So that's the first big thing. And then the second thing is see what your school has to offer. I know that when I traveled to Morocco and Kyrgyzstan, I used another website called Workaway, and anyone can sign up. I think it's like a one-time membership fee. And then you post what you're looking to do. So I posted, I speak English natively. I'm looking to teach English somewhere. And then this specifically Morocco. And then the people that worked at the Moroccan schools reached out to me, and we talked, and that's how it got organized. And so I got to stay there for free in exchange for teaching their students.
Yeah. Oh, how cool. What a neat resource. Awesome. Well, Austin, thank you so much. I know there's just been a wealth of knowledge and perspective, and I think really just encouraging things for parents and students to hear today. But before we wrap up, this is kind of the last thing we always ask our guests, or basically their simplified lessons. So basically, if you had to kind of simplify like one or two of the most important life lessons that you've had to learn, what would those be that you could maybe share to help others learn those lessons maybe a little bit more quickly?
Okay. I'd say one of the biggest life lessons I've learned so far has been to be patient. Everything, you can have everything, just not now. Like anything that you want, I believe that you can attain it. There's a quote from one of my favorite books, is The Alchemist, and he said, he said, if you can hold it in your mind, then you can hold it in your palm. But things take time. Like nothing that you want is going to happen overnight. And so with students that are working towards a specific career path, or wanting to get into a certain school or achieve even a certain test score, or even an A in a class, like these things don't happen overnight. And I think when you're young, it's easy to get defeated, because you haven't lived that long. So you haven't seen how much good that time can do if you dedicate yourself to a skill. So that is one. Be patient. I would just circle back to the other thing of not taking yourself so seriously. We only get to live once. So live with a light heart. Try to have fun as you're going. Try to find the joy in the little things that you do. It can be difficult to find joy in math homework, but try to find the part of it that you connect to. Because if you can be authentic and put your heart into what you're doing, like everything will be so much better.
Wow, that's really good insight. I love that, Austin. Thank you so much. It's just been a pleasure having you today. And, I know that there's so much that our parents and students and families can really learn from what you've shared. So thank you.
Oh, I'm glad. It's been such an honor to be here. And I hope this helps whoever is listening.
Thanks so much for listening.
If you enjoyed this episode, please leave us a review wherever you get your podcasts. And don't forget to subscribe to our show for future episodes. See you next time.